Good morning, everyone. Our topic for today is all about the Republic Act 1425 or the Rizal Law. Here are the objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students are expected to understand the life, works, and significant contributions of Jose Rizal to the Philippine nationalism and independence, apply critical thinking to compare past and present societal issues and how Rizal's ideas remain relevant today, and lastly, develop a sense of nationalism and pride in the Filipino identity inspired by Rizal's patriotism and sacrifices.
So let's have our discussion, which is all about the Rizal Bill in 1956, or also known as Rizal Law. It was proposed by Claro Recto and Jose P. Laurel, mandating schools to offer a course on Rizal's life, works, and writings. They meet intense opposition from the Catholic Church. So Recto and Laurel are both prominent figures in Philippine politics, where they believed that studying Rizal life and works was crucial for shaping the national identity of Filipinos. They argued that Rizal writings, which is the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, offered an important insights into the social, political, and cultural realities of the Philippines under Spanish colonial rule. So some people also like the idea that the schools in the Philippines is mag-teach about Dr. Jose Rizal, which may help Filipino people understand our history before. But the Catholic Church is against in this idea. They thought that Rizal books were against the church and its powers. They are worried that teaching about Rizal would make people less religious. Kaya diba, ang books ni Rizal is nag-talk about how the church wasn't always fair to people in the Pilipinas. Kaya naman to yung mga leaders nga corrupt, just like Padre Damaso, which he uses his position to mistreat Filipino people, and also Padre Salve, which also uses his position to control Maria Clara. And they both uses church funds to their own benefit. Maong this made the church look bad. Catholic schools strengthened because of communist and anti-Catholic Recto and Laurel. Archbishop of Manila Rufino Santos requested Recto to only require the expurgated version of Rizal's two novels. So, Archbishop Rufino Santos requested Recto nga i-require ratong expurgated version sa two novels, which is the El Filibusterismo and the Noli Me Tangere, which means there are parts of the books nga i-remove or i-change. The church thought this would make the books nga less dangerous sa church teaching or their teachings. He thought that by changing the books, removing the parts nga makonsidered niya nga harmful, he would make them safe sa mga Catholic students nga mo read version of Rizal's novels. This is fight for Rizal's legacy. However, the priest who opposed the passage of the bill threatened the persons behind the bill and might to be considered as heretic. So, ni-request man sa Archbishop Santos nga i-change, but Recto didn't want to change it kay he wanted to make sure that people understood Rizal's true ideas. He wanted people to read the whole books, not just the parts nga gusto sa church. Recto wanted is mag-remain alive ang history before in a way nga i-implement ni siya sa public and private schools so that the future generation are still aware of what happened in the Philippines during Spanish colonization and how Dr. Jose Rizal awakened the national consciousness and encouraged Filipinos to seek reform and independence. In the same way, the opposition threatened them by mentioning that the schools handled by the Catholic Church might be closed if the bill will be converted into law. Even so, Recto and Laurel countered the statement by saying that if that were to happen, schools would be nationalized and the government would convert these schools into government-ruled institutions. So the Catholic Church said nga if the Rizal Law is mapass, they will close down ang tanang schools nga they owned. They wanted to show how powerful they were and how much they didn't want nga Rizal book is mabecome nga course or subject in the Philippines. But Ricto and Laurel, who wanted jud nga mapass ni siya nga law, they said nga if they will close down the Catholic Church schools, the government would take them over. Means the government is responsible to schools to make sure nga they stayed open. So these are the senators who opposed the bill. First we have Este Francisco Rodrigo, Mariano Cuenco, and De Coruso Rosales. So Francisco Rodrigo, he argued that the bill was unnecessary and that students should focus on other subjects, while Mariano Cuenco believed that the bill was poorly written and that it would lead to a decline in the quality education. And this also the groups who opposed the bill. The first we have is the Catholic Action of the Philippines, the Congregation of the Mission, Knights of Columbus, and the Catholic Teachers Guild. So this is the Rizal Law, or also known as Republic Act 1425, an act to include in the curricula of all public and private schools, colleges, and universities courses on the life, works, and writings of Jose Rizal, particularly Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, authorizing the printing and distribution thereof and for other purposes. So the Rizal Law, or also known as Republic Act 1425, is a law that requires all public and private schools, colleges, and universities in the Philippines to include the courses on the life, works, and writings of Jose Rizal, specifically his novels, which is the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. So, Fidel Ramos directed CHED and DSCS to fully implement the law through CMO number 247 in 1994. CMO number 3 was issued to enforce strictly the law in 1995. So, President Ramos told CHED and DSCS nga make sure that the law was followed properly by issuing the document called CMO number 247. And another document was issued to make sure jud nga na followed and law even more strictly maong na a document called CMO number 3. So this means that the first document, which is ang CMO number 247, wasn't enough to make sure that everyone was following the law properly. Maong nakadecide ang government nga mag-issue og new document called CMO number 3 to make sure that they strictly followed the law. So that ends my discussion. I will give the floor to Ms. Botero for the continuation of our topic.
Okay, let's move on to the important points of Republic Act 1425, or the Rizal Bill. Whereas today, more than any other period of our history, there is a need for a rededication to the ideals of freedom and nationalism, for which our heroes lived and died. This point is essentially emphasizing that in the present time, more than in any other period of history, it's especially important for people to recommit themselves to the values of freedom and nationalism. These ideals are framed as fundamental principles that the nation's heroes, presumably people who fought or made sacrifices for the country, stood for. So this is a call to honor their legacy by embodying and upholding these values. The next point is, whereas it is meet that in honoring them, particularly the national hero and patriot Jose Rizal, we remember with special fondness and devotion their lives and works that have shaped the national character. By doing so, it calls for people to remember their lives and contributions with affection and respect. With the sacrifices of our national heroes, especially Dr. Jose Rizal, with their bravery nakahelp to in shaping the nation's identity and character. Whereas the life, works, and writing of Jose Rizal, particularly his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, are a constant and inspiring source of patriotism, which The minds of the youth, especially during their formative and decisive years in school, should be suffused. The life, works, and writings of Rizal is the idea that exposure to Rizal's ideas and values that can inspire a sense of national pride and a commitment to the country's ideals, fostering a patriotic spirit in the next generation. The last important point in Republic Act 1425 or the Rizal Law is that whereas all educational institutions are under the supervision of and subject to regulation by the state, and all schools are enjoined to develop moral character, personal discipline, civic conscience, and to teach the duties of citizenship. Let's move on to the sections from Republic Act 1425 or the Rizal Law. Section number 1, courses on the life, works, and writings of Rizal, particularly his novel Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, shall be included in the curricula of all schools, colleges, and universities, public or private, provided that in the collegiate courses, the original or unexpurgated editions of the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo or their English translation shall be used as basic text. It is mandated by law na necessary jud nga in all schools, especially colleges and university, public or private, na in-include ang courses on the life, works, and writings of Jose Rizal, especially his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. Section number 2. It shall be obligatory on all schools, colleges, and university to keep in their libraries an adequate number of copies of the original and unexpurgated editions of the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, as well as of Jose Rizal's other works and biography. And it is also mandated by law na in all schools, public or private or even university, dapat ang ilang mga libraries have many copies of the life, works, and writings of Rizal, especially his novels, which are the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. Section number 3. The Board of National Education shall cause the translation of the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, as well as other writings of Jose Rizal into English, Tagalog, and the principal Philippine dialects, cause them to be printed in cheap, popular editions, and cause them to be distributed free of charge to persons desiring to read them through the Purok organizations and barrio councils throughout the country. It is mandated also nga i-translate ang El Filibusterismo and Noli Me Tangere to different Philippine dialects, especially English or Tagalog, and it can be distributed by the Purok organization and barrio councils throughout the country sa mga willing murid or sa mga conscious about the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. Section number 4. Nothing in this act shall be construed as amendment or repealing Section 927 of the Administrative Code, prohibiting the discussion of religious doctrines by public school teachers and other persons engaged in any public school. In other words, even with the enactment of this law, the restriction on religious instruction in public schools remains unchanged, ensuring that public education stays secular. Section 5. The sum of 300,000 pesos is hereby authorized to be appropriated out of any fund not otherwise appropriated in the National Treasury to carry out the purposes of this Act, which means this money will be used specifically to support or implement the objectives of this Act. Essentially, it designs a budget for carrying out the actions or programs established by the Act. Let's dig deeper to the significance of RA 1425 or the Rizal Law. First, it provides insight on how to deal with current problems. It helps to understand better ourselves as Filipinos. It teaches a nationalism. It provides various essential life lessons, and it serves as a worthwhile inspiration to every Filipino. All in all, the RA 1425 or the Rizal Law helps us to shape ourselves as a better Filipino citizens in our country. Before we end our topic, let me leave you a quote. The Rizal Law aims to honor Rizal by fostering in the minds of the Filipino people, especially the youth, an understanding of the significance of his life, works, and ideals in shaping Philippine nationalism. By Senator Claro M. Recto. Thank you for listening.